Chapter 24-21. As a result, the mercenaries naturally couldn't wait to try out the methods they got. When a portion of them returned successfully, more people would try it out. Slowly, the number of people listening to Luo Qingtong's lecture decreased. Of course, even so, the Black Iron mercenary group didn't dare to find trouble with Luo Qingtong. Because they were already being watched by the people of Mercenary City. As long as something happened to Luo Qingtong, they would look for them. What's more, because of the methods taught by Luo Qingtong, the efficiency of the Mercenary City's mercenaries was amazing. The Black Iron mercenary group's people were in charge of the Mercenary Association. They were already as busy as a spinning top. They simply couldn't find the time to deal with Luo Qingtong, okay? Today, after Luo Qingtong appraised the last business as usual, she was picked up by the Red Flame mercenary group's people. Because of the stability in Mercenary City, Gui Feng and the others didn't come out to pick her up. After all, the Red Flame mercenary group's people also needed to accept missions in exchange for resources. Of course, with Luo Qingtong there, they never failed a mission. The youth only needed to look at the description of the mission they wanted to accept, and he could think of countless ways for them to complete the mission. Every one of them was extremely efficient and valiant. Every mission's completion rate was the highest. Their harvest was also the most. The Red Flame mercenary group's people looked at Luo Qingtong with shining eyes. And Ouyang Yingyu often hugged Luo Qingtong's head, pressed her face against her chest, and happily called her little 7 baby. Luo Qingtong was embarrassed by her mushy and seductive way of addressing her. Every time, she had to struggle for a long time before she could struggle out of Ouyang Yingyu's 36D big weapon. It was a critical hit. Every time Luo Qingtong struggled out of Ouyang Yingyu's weapon, she would silently look at her flat chest and silently say 100 times, "This is fake, this is fake. I actually have breasts. B and D are just one more circle." The small illusory shaping pill that Luo Qingtong had taken was very powerful. As long as she didn't have enough strength to remove the effects of the pill, each time she took it, it would last for at least half a month. After all, it was improved by a spirit pill like the illusory form pill. Although it was a shrunken version, it was still not comparable to the effects of ordinary medicinal pills. After Luo Qingtong packed up her things, she greeted the mercenaries who were listening to her explanation in the plaza and left with the person from the Red Flame mercenary group who came to pick her up. The two of them left the square and walked towards the Red Flame mercenary group's encampment. As soon as they entered a small alley, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly sharpened. She quickly raised her head and looked at a certain place in the alley. There was a messy pile of things placed there. It was messy and very messy. There was also a lot of trash among them. The direction of the alley was extremely dark. In this evening, there was a deep and dark aura. "Brother Xiaoyu," Luo Qingtong calmly said to the person from the Red Flame mercenary group who came to pick her up, "Let's go to another place today. There is a smell here. I don't feel comfortable smelling it." Luo Qingtong and the people from the Red Flame mercenary group who came to pick her up basically walked through this alley. Because this road was the closest to their encampment. However, since Luo Qingtong said that the smell here was a bit uncomfortable, the person from the Red Flame mercenary group didn't insist. "Okay, let's go to another place." As he spoke, he led her to another path. Chapter 24-22. With a bang, a black figure rushed towards them. Save me." The black figure was trembling badly. He was wearing a robe as thin as a cicada's wing. His entire body was exposed in front of Luo Qingtong and the man from the Red Flame mercenary group. "Hey, little 7, don't look." The man from the Red Flame mercenary group immediately covered Luo Qingtong's eyes. What a joke, how could he not cover it? The robe was so thin that the 3 points of the other party's body were exposed in front of Luo Qingtong. This little 7 was still a child. "Who are you?" Why are you dressed so indecently? The man from the Red Flame mercenary group was in a bad mood. After getting along with each other for a period of time, the group of people from the Red Flame mercenary group saw Luo Qingtong, who looked like a 13 or 14-year-old, as their little brother. They protected her under their wings. Under such circumstances, they certainly didn't want Luo Qingtong to see such a scene. Wasn't this bringing back a child? This guy wasn't a pervert, right? Or did he have other plans? Thinking of this, the expression of the man from the Red Flame mercenary group changed. He looked at the person who suddenly appeared with vigilance. He didn't forget that in this mercenary city, many people had designs on Luo Qingtong. Of course, that was in the past. But that didn't mean that there weren't any now. Thinking of this, he suddenly shouted at the figure who appeared, "If there's nothing else, get lost. We can't help you with anything." It was a woman. At this moment, she was crying and running towards Luo Qingtong and Qing Xiaoye. The latter's expression was very ugly. While covering Luo Qingtong's eyes, he took her to the side. After all, the woman's breasts were shaking violently, and the triangular area below was naked. If it was in the past, in the brothel, Qing Xiaoye would enjoy the feeling of such a beautiful woman throwing herself at him. But now that he had Luo Qingtong by his side, he hated that he couldn't lift his foot and kick the other party out. young master, please save me. We were abducted by a sect disciple to be his cultivation furnace. We spent a lot of effort to escape. Save me, save me. The woman cried and kept running towards Qing Xiaoye and Luo Qingtong. The latter kept retreating with Luo Qingtong. At this moment, a series of voices rang out from the entrance of the alley not far away. Search. Search all. Don't let a single one of those who escaped escape. As these voices rang out, the woman's cries stopped. She saw that Luo Qingtong and Qing Xiaoye had no intention of saving her. She glared at them and screamed, "An ugly monster, a coward. If it's not, who needs your help?" Bah! She spat at Luo Qingtong and Qing Xiaoye, then turned and ran in another direction. It was obvious that she didn't dare to stay any longer and was going to find someone else to take her in. Seeing her actions, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She saw that the woman's expression and behavior were not right. She was frivolous and cheap, completely different from what she said about being abducted to be a cultivation furnace. That was why she deliberately ignored her. She didn't expect that the other party would not only fail to ask for help, but also scold her and Qing Xiaoye before leaving. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Chapter 24-23. Miss, don't go. Luo Qingtong shouted at this moment. She deliberately looked in the direction of those voices and said, "Don't worry, I will get justice for you. Those people treated you as human cauldrons. It's too abominable." Her voice rang out, and in an instant, the people who had been searching around the alleyway rushed over. Ah! When the woman saw that Luo Qingtong had led those people over, she screamed and ran out crazily. However, no matter how fast she ran, how could she outrun those people who were here to catch them? After a while, she was caught. Slap! A man who seemed to be the leader slapped her hard on the face. "Bitch, it's your fortune to be sent to serve Elder Zhang. How dare you run?" As he spoke, he glared coldly at the woman and said, "Speak. Where's young master's new favorite? Where did you take him?" I don't know." After the woman was caught, she went limp. Her body was trembling, and she wanted to use her body to seduce those people who came to catch her. However, these people were already used to her behavior and ignored her. The leader of the group broke her hand. "Speak," he shouted coldly. I really don't know." The woman couldn't bear it and broke down crying. The man kept interrogating and broke her limbs. When he realized that he couldn't get anything out of her, he gritted his teeth and asked people to carry her back. Before leaving, he looked coldly at Luo Qingtong and Qing Xiaoye. Shut your mouths for things you shouldn't ask and things you shouldn't care about. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. As he spoke, he glanced at the symbol of the Red Flame mercenary group embroidered on Qing Xiaoye's clothes and left with the crowd. Looking at their backs, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. There were other sounds in the alley. It was the sound of those people searching around. After an unknown amount of time, those people seemed to have not found anything. In the end, they could only leave while cursing. TSK, where did this disciple come from? I'm speechless. Qing Xiaoye didn't remove his hand from Luo Qingtong's eyes until those people left. Because he didn't know how long those people would search here, in order to avoid a conflict with them and injure Luo Qingtong, he simply stayed here. Seeing that these people had obviously left, he then prepared to leave with Luo Qingtong. Let's go, little seven, I didn't scare you, did I? He asked with concern. No. Luo Qingtong shook her head. Well, don't blame Brother Xiao Yu for restraining you just now. You silly boy, that woman just now is not simple. You haven't seen any woman before and you still want to save her. I had no choice, Brother Xiao Yu, I had to stop you. It turned out that after Luo Qingtong screamed, she attracted those people. Chapter 24-24. Translations. Luo Qingtong said seriously. Then she seemed to have thought of something and glanced at the alley they were going to take. In the end, she didn't say anything and went back with Qin Xiaoye. In the next few days, those people were constantly searching for something in Mercenary City, causing the entire city to be in a state of panic. Luo Qingtong saw this and didn't say anything. On the fourth day, those people finally gave up and left as if they had something urgent to attend to. After they left, Luo Qingtong and a member of the Red Flame mercenary group who came to pick her up went back through the nearest alley. Just as she walked to the entrance of the alley, a swaying figure rushed towards her from the messy intersection not far ahead. Save me. After he finished speaking, he fainted in front of Luo Qingtong. Ah! The person who was in charge of picking up Luo Qingtong wanted to push him away, but he suddenly fell down. The person from the Red Flame mercenary group was also dumbfounded. Most importantly, he forgot to cover Luo Qingtong's eyes. Damn, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. Looking at the naked man in front of her who was wearing a transparent silk robe like the woman from before, she really didn't know what to say. It stung her eyes. Luo Qingtong knew that there was a person hiding here. It was very likely that he was the beloved pet of the young master that those people were looking for. But she didn't expect that the other party was wearing the same stinging clothes as the woman from before. What kind of weird hobby did that young master have? Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. She looked at a member of the Red Flame mercenary group beside her. Brother Zhu Li, why didn't you stop him? At least stand in front of her and block her. Cough. That member of the Red Flame mercenary group named Zhu Li coughed lightly and immediately said, "It's okay. He's a man. He's not afraid to look." What he meant was that Luo Qingtong was also a man. It didn't matter if a man looked at a man. Luo Qingtong was speechless. How was she going to tell him that she was actually a woman? Forget it, she would just treat it as if she was blinded by shit. Luo Qingtong asked Zhu Li to help him up and bring him back. She couldn't help it. She couldn't help it, right? As for leaving him alone, Luo Qingtong wanted to. However, this person was lying dead in front of her. Not only that, but he was also clutching her clothes tightly. What could Luo Qingtong do? She couldn't just kick him away. That would ruin her current image as Luo Xiaoqi. Luo Qingtong asked Zhu Li to take off his outer robe and wrap it around him before bringing him back to the base of the Red Flame mercenary group. 7. What's wrong? Guifeng and the others were shocked when they saw that they brought a man back. Especially Guifeng, he rushed to Luo Qingtong's side and looked her up and down. After finding that she was fine, he looked at Julie with a serious face and asked, "What's going on?" "I don't know." Julie scratched his head and said honestly, "This person suddenly rushed out from the side and asked us to save him. He should be the beloved pet of the young master from the sect who caused a commotion. The incident a few days ago was very big. The entire mercenary city was in a mess. Everyone in the Red Flame mercenary group knew about it." Hearing this, Guifeng frowned and looked at that person. Chapter 24-25. Let him into the house first. Helplessness appeared on his face. If this person was brought back by someone else, he definitely wouldn't have taken him in. But Luo Qingtong, this little girl, was kind-hearted. She even interceded for the girl who scolded her. If Cheng Xiaoye hadn't restrained her, she might have gotten into a conflict with those people from the sections. Who knew how much she would have suffered by then? Under such circumstances, he naturally couldn't kick out the person she saved. Otherwise, this little girl would be very sad. With that in mind, Guifeng had no choice but to take her in. Luo Qingtong didn't know what Guifeng was thinking. She was tangled up with the person Julie was carrying on his back. He clutched her sleeve and wouldn't let go. Would he ask her to take care of this person later? Luo Qingtong frowned. She tried to pull her sleeve back several times, but to no avail. She couldn't let Julie and the others see that something was wrong. Luo Qingtong could only give up. She followed Julie into the room. The latter put the person on the bed and said to her, "Little Seven, take care of him first. I have something to do with the leader. I'll come find you later." As he spoke, he walked out directly, leaving Luo Qingtong alone. Her lips twitched as she looked at the person lying on the couch. Fortunately, Julie didn't take away the clothes wrapped around the person when he left. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong would definitely turn around and leave. As for this person, what did his life have to do with her? It was already good enough that she could bring him back here and let the people of the Red Flame mercenary group take him in. Luo Qingtong frowned and wiped the person's face. At this moment, the person slowly opened his eyes. "You?" His eyes were first filled with vigilance and fear. With a swoosh, he crawled up from the couch, hugging his outer robe as he cowered in a corner of the couch. "You, who are you?" He looked at Luo Qingtong with an unconcealable panic in his eyes. The glaze in her eyes flickered, making the whites of her eyes look like flowing clouds, beautiful and clear to the extreme. The dirt on his face had been wiped off by Luo Qingtong, revealing a face that was as cold and noble as a banished immortal. He looked high and mighty, unapproachable. However, the light in his eyes was too pure and clear, making him look as pure and moving as a child who didn't know anything about the world. Such a pair of eyes, coupled with his high and mighty face, gave off an inexplicable feeling of an immortal with broken wings and falling into the mortal world. Luo Qingtong looked at the other party's expression. She probably understood why those people from the sects had made such a big fuss in Mercenary City in order to find him. If it wasn't for those people suddenly leaving due to an urgent matter, they would have found this person sooner or later. However, the other party was smart and knew to stay in that place without moving. He didn't call for help, nor did he run away. Otherwise, she was afraid that he wouldn't be able to last until those people left. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't explain her identity to the other party. She only threw the handkerchief in her hand over and said to him, "Since you're already awake, wipe your face yourself. That's right, change your clothes. Don't wear the clothes you're wearing." Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she looked at the other party crawling and cowering. The red robe wrapped around his body was about to fall off again. Faintly discernible jade-colored skin was revealed through the gaps of the robe, with two dark red spots sandwiched between. Chapter 24-26. With Luo Qingtong's words, the man was stunned for a moment. He looked down at his appearance at the moment, and his face suddenly blushed. "Thank you." He thanked her with difficulty and took the clothes that Luo Qingtong handed over. By now, he had somewhat recovered from his emotional state. Maybe it was because Luo Qingtong's attitude was too peaceful, or maybe it was because he had recognized that Luo Qingtong was the person he asked for help in his coma. His gaze towards Luo Qingtong was no longer filled with fear and panic. "Thank you for saving me, can you turn around first?" he said while biting his lips. His pair of clear, shallow glass-like eyes looked at Luo Qingtong helplessly and shyly. When the young man looked over, he couldn't help but lower his head again. That cold and noble face looked like a banished immortal. Because of his appearance at the moment, it inexplicably made people want to torture and ravage him. Innocence and seduction were intertwined. Although the other party was a man, Luo Qingtong still thought of the word stunner in her mind. No wonder those people kept searching for him. Fortunately, the other party had something to do and left. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong would never bring this big trouble to the Red Flame mercenary group. She brought trouble to the latter and others, and also brought trouble to herself. But even now, the other party couldn't stay here for long. After all, who knew if those people would come back and look for him again after finishing their business? Luo Qingtong and Julie were very careful when they brought him back. The man's body was also covered by a robe, and his face was covered with dirt. His appearance couldn't be seen clearly. But it was better to be safe than sorry. Luo Qingtong wouldn't let the people of the Red Flame mercenary group get into trouble because of her. For her, she could just walk away. But what about the people of the Red Flame mercenary group? They took her in, and she couldn't harm them, right? "If you have nothing else, leave here." She turned her back and allowed the man to change his clothes. "Those people have already left this place. I'm sure you already know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have run out to ask me for help at that time. But you also know that those people are looking for you very hard. I don't want to cause trouble for our mercenary group. I'll give you some money later. You can go now." Luo Qingtong had already earned a great deal of money. She had more than enough money to investigate the true Spill continent. She didn't mind giving the other party some money to send this trouble away. However, as soon as she finished speaking, a warm body suddenly pressed against her back, followed by the panicked voice of the man. Don't send me away." His voice was frantic and uneasy. He hugged Luo Qingtong from behind and sobbed, "I have nowhere else to go. Please, can you take me in?" The moment his body pressed against hers, Luo Qingtong subconsciously wanted to break his wrist and throw him out. But thinking of her role as Luo Qingtong abruptly restrained the impulse in her heart. She pretended to be frightened and broke free from the other party's shackles. She looked at him with vigilance and said, "So what? I can't let our mercenary group get involved in danger for you, right?" Chapter 24-27. Luo Qingtong stared at him as she said this. There was an undetectable coldness in the depths of her eyes. His appearance was too inexplicable. He fell in front of her and asked her to save him. There were so many people coming and going in the alley at that time. Why did he choose her? If it was because she was a teenager, it was easier for him to let his guard down. Then why was he pestering her to take him in? Luo Qingtong was just acting as the innocent and harmless Luo Xiaoqi. But in her bones, she was the cautious evil pupil. The supreme pupil master who had been chased by countless people in the 24th century. How could she not be prepared for the appearance of the other party? Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the man was stunned. Then he bit his lips and said, "It was that day, at the entrance of the alley. I heard what you said to Fuji. I only believe you. When he said this, Luo Qingtong instantly understood what was going on. Fuji. Luo Qingtong thought of the woman she met in the alley that day when she suddenly changed her route. Was he talking about her? Luo Qingtong thought carefully. Then her lips twitched. She remembered now. At that time, Fuji couldn't ask for help. She even scolded Luo Qingtong and Qing Xiaoye. In order to teach her a lesson, Luo Qingtong deliberately led those people over. So this man heard what she said deliberately and thought that she wanted to save that woman. Because of that, he took a liking to her. No wonder he didn't ask for help after those people left. Instead, he threw himself in front of her. Luo Qingtong looked at him with a headache. Meanwhile, the man had already changed his clothes. He was wearing the clothes that Luo Qingtong prepared. Although they were made of coarse linen, they couldn't hide his tall and elegant figure. If it weren't for the clear and pure light in his eyes, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the man in front of him was a prodigy from one of those aristocratic families. But at this moment, he was looking at Luo Qingtong with a fearful and uneasy expression. Tears welled up in his eyes. Can you not chase me away? He begged Luo Qingtong helplessly. I can do a lot of things. If you want me to serve you, I can. As he spoke, he bit his lips hard. Sorrow flashed in his eyes as he raised his hand to pull Luo Qingtong's belt. Hey, wait. Luo Qingtong quickly held her belt. What a joke. She didn't have that hobby at all, okay? Moreover, even if she did, she didn't have that ability. Luo Qingtong's movements were extremely fast. Almost instantly, she held down the other's hand to prevent him from taking away her belt. Although her small illusory shaping pill had allowed her to grow an Adam's apple and flatten her chest, it was still not enough. But there was something below that absolutely wasn't there. Luo Qingtong didn't want to expose herself in the other's hands. And when Luo Qingtong held down the other's hand, her eyes suddenly flashed. Luo Qingtong detected that there was no cultivation in the other's body at all. Did she really think too much before? Did he just happen to ask her for help? Luo Qingtong's head hurt even more as she thought about it. If this was the case, she couldn't force him out. Besides, this was not in line with Luo Xiaoqi's character. Okay, you can stay here first. Seeing the other's eyes lit up in an instant, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. What's your name? She asked. Yu Xian. Knowing that he could stay here, the man's heart seemed to be very happy. However, the expression on his face remained cold and indifferent. My name is Yu Xian. He looked at Luo Qingtong and said, Yu as in the middle of the sky. Xian as in the mystery of this life. When he said this, something seemed to flash in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 24-28. When he said this, something seemed to flash in the depths of his eyes. It looked unusually deep and gloomy. But this feeling disappeared in a flash. When he looked up at Luo Qingtong again, he had that innocent and shy look again. You can call me Ah Xian or Ah Yu. He looked at Luo Qingtong. Can I call you by your name? He asked Luo Qingtong carefully. He wanted to ask, but he was afraid that Luo Qingtong would refuse. Yes. Luo Qingtong was a little white rabbit, but now there was a little white rabbit who was even more white than her. She looked at the other party's expectant eyes and couldn't find the words to refuse. Anyway, he would know her name sooner or later. My name is Luo Xiaoqi. You can call me Xiaoqi, she said to the man. As for the other party asking her to call him Ah Xian or Ah Yu, she didn't say a word. She was not used to calling people she was not familiar with so intimately. Oh. The man seemed a little disappointed when he didn't hear Luo Qingtong call his name. But thinking that Luo Qingtong could let him stay, he quickly cheered up. Is there anything I can do for you? He looked at Luo Qingtong carefully as he spoke. Afraid that she would misunderstand, he quickly said, I'm talking about something in life, such as serving tea and water. His voice became lower and lower as he spoke. This was the only thing he could do. He wondered if the other party would despise him. The man's face showed such thoughts. Luo Qingtong couldn't pretend not to see it. Looking at his uneasy look, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched slightly, and she said, It's okay. I don't need it. But you can tell me what you can do. It could be seen that the man was very worried that she would drive him away again. But even if Luo Qingtong saw it, she wouldn't make any promises to him. To her, this person was neither a relative nor a friend of hers. Taking him in temporarily was already her greatest kindness. If it weren't for the fact that she was still Luo Qingtong's character, she wouldn't have bothered to talk to her at all. Luo Qingtong hated trouble the most when she was outside. However, in order to maintain Luo Shaoqi's image, she had no choice but to let him stay. However, this did not mean that she would help him to the end. At this moment, even if she was Luo Shaoqi, she was just a little naive. She was not a naive saint. She knew what was important. If Yu Xian was capable, he could stay in the Red Flame mercenary group with his own ability. But if he didn't, it would depend on what Gui Feng and the others thought. Luo Qingtong wouldn't ask Gui Feng and the others to make him stay. The other party wasn't worthy enough for her to do so. Upon hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Yu Xian looked slightly embarrassed. He lowered his head as an awkward expression flashed across his cold face. I only know how to serve people. His voice was extremely low. It was so low that Luo Qingtong couldn't hear it at all if she hadn't pricked up her ears. Luo Qingtong looked at him. Her mind was stuck for a moment. Wait. She looked at the embarrassed expression that flashed across the other party's fairy-like face. Then she thought of what Yu Xian said to her before about serving her. So, it wasn't the service she was thinking of, right? That? Yu Mingxian asked his subordinates to investigate for a long time, but they still couldn't find anything. Luo Qingtong didn't do anything in Mercenary City. It was as if she really had nothing to investigate. But if she had nothing to do, why would she come to Mercenary City for no reason? Yu Mingxian lowered his eyes slightly and tapped the couch in front of him with his fingertips. But he didn't think for too long. Chapter 24:30. Even the things that his foster father and the others had hidden from him, the things that they didn't want him to know, the things behind Chen Meng, he would clearly investigate them. If it was really related to the gods' inscriptions, then he would definitely take it. No one would be able to stop him. Yu Mingqian's eyes were cold. But soon, the expression in his light-glazed eyes changed again. They became clear and ignorant. With an uneasy expression, Yu Mingqian, or Yu Xian, went to sleep. After Luo Qingtong left Yu Mingqian's room, she went to where Gui Feng and the others were. She asked them about the sect young master in detail. But since Yu Mingqian had designed this play, he naturally made sure it was foolproof. That young master from the sect was real, and so were those slaves that escaped from him. But Yu Mingqian was a fake. The real sect young master's beloved pet had already died. The name Yu Xian was completely made up by Yu Mingqian. But who could ask the sect young master what his beloved pet was called? Therefore, the information that Luo Qingtong obtained from Gui Feng was not wrong. The sect young master had indeed lost his beloved pet, and the other party was a frequent customer of Mercenary City. There was no problem with his identity. After Luo Qingtong inquired about these matters, she no longer doubted Yu Mingqian. How would she know that she had been tricked? Just as Luo Qingtong was searching for information about that young master from a sect, a few figures arrived at the entrance of Mercenary City. Master, this is Mercenary City of the Heavenly Wind region. If that Xia Qi is really the evil doctor, she should have come to Mercenary City to investigate if she wanted to return to the true Spill continent. Bei Qing said to the man in front of her. Yi Qianxian nodded. His face was hidden behind a white jade mask. It was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. Behind him, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others also wore white jade masks, covering their faces. They had no choice but to do this. The people of Tiandu were still searching for Yi Qianxian's whereabouts. His Majesty was really angry this time. He was determined to take Yi Qianxian back and marry him before he turned 28. Moreover, he insisted on denying the existence of Luo Qingtong. They came to look for Luo Qingtong. They could not let the people of Tiandu discover their identities. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong's safety would be in danger. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were both people who served Yi Qianxian. Their appearances were familiar to the people of Tiandu, so they naturally had to wear white jade masks to cover their faces, to avoid being recognized by the people of Tiandu. It was Bei Qing's idea to come to Mercenary City. She had always been a careless person, but now her mind was actually sharp. When Yi Qianxian and the others went to Sky Wind Inscription City, they couldn't find Luo Qingtong. Bei Qing's mind flashed. If Luo Qingtong wanted to return to the true Spill continent, she would naturally look for a place to investigate if she didn't know the way. Then, there was likely to be a shadow of her in Mercenary City. As for why they thought that Luo Qingtong didn't know the way, that was because Song Qing was also crazily looking for Luo Qingtong. The group was originally prepared to contact him and ask him about Xia Qi's true identity. They wanted to know if she was really Luo Qingtong. But they felt that someone was watching Song Qing. Out of caution, Yi Qianxian and the others didn't contact him again. Chapter 2431. After all, in this world, there were many people with the same name and surname, and even people with similar naming habits. Evil and 7 didn't mean anything. But what about Song City? This was Luo Qingtong's master. When Yi Qianxian was in true Spill continent, he knew some things about him. But he didn't expect that the other party would be from Sky Wind region Sky Wind Inscription City. If the other party was the one who summoned Luo Qingtong, then Luo Qingtong's disappearance in true Spill continent was very logical. Yi Qianxian and the others didn't stay in Sky Wind Inscription City for too long. As soon as Bei Qing mentioned Mercenary City, they immediately rushed over to Mercenary City. Unfortunately, if it weren't for the fact that we can't use the 10-directional dragon ring, we would have been able to determine the whereabouts of the evil doctor. Bei Qing said regretfully. It's fine. Feng Yu said, even so, it's still better than His Majesty and the others discovering our whereabouts, Master, and the whereabouts of the evil doctor. Previously, when Master had forcefully left Sky Capital, His Majesty and the others didn't know that Yi Qianxian was looking for Luo Qingtong. They thought that Luo Qingtong was still in the 9-star Desolate Domain. That was the name of the star field where true Spill continent was located. Because they didn't know that Yi Qianxian was looking for Luo Qingtong, Sky Capital's emperor wasn't angry at Luo Qingtong. But if he knew that Yi Qianxian had disobeyed his orders for Luo Qingtong, risking his meridians to leave Sky Capital, and even fighting with him, His Majesty would definitely make a move on Luo Qingtong. At that time, the evil doctor's safety would be worrying. Therefore, when Yi Qianxian attacked with all his strength, he also sealed the 10-directional dragon ring. Although this would make the process of finding Luo Qingtong much more difficult, it was still better than putting Luo Qingtong in danger. Everyone knew the importance of this matter. Bei Qing immediately stopped talking. The group plunged into Mercenary City and soon found out about the existence of Luo Qingtong. Luo Xiaoqi. Yi Qianxian's brows furrowed slightly. Hidden under the mask, there was a hint of solemnity. The other party's name sounded like Luo Qingtong. However, this Luo Xiaoqi is a teenager. Feng Yu said in a low voice, "Master, I've checked carefully and looked from afar. The other party is indeed a genuine man. He shouldn't be an evil doctor." Luo Qingtong was a woman. Even though they had received news that Xie Qi was a man, Feng Yu and the others had not seen it with their own eyes. What's more, it wasn't like Luo Qingtong didn't have the experience of dressing up as a man, so everyone didn't care too much about it. He thought that Luo Qingtong had disguised herself as a man and became Xie Qi. Chapter 2432. Yi Qianxian was going to check her identity in person to prevent her from deceiving Bei Qing and Feng Yu again. After all, before confirming Luo Qingtong's identity, they couldn't expose her identity at will, so as not to attract the people of Heaven Capital. Yi Qianxian had used all his strength to break out of Heaven Capital. If the Emperor of Heaven Capital came to catch her again, he wouldn't be able to use all his strength again. Because his meridians couldn't bear it anymore. Yes. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and others nodded. There was a glimmer of hope in their hearts. They hoped that Luo Qingtong was Luo Qingtong, but she hid her identity too well. Master knew the evil doctor better than them. If he did it, he might be able to find out a different result. Thinking of Luo Qingtong's strange and unpredictable abilities and means, everyone's face twitched slightly. If it was known that they couldn't even defeat a person from a low-level star region and a low-level continent, and were often fooled by her many means, the eyes of all the people of Heaven Capital would probably fall out of their sockets. However, if the evil doctor hadn't been so different, Master wouldn't have been so deeply entangled and unable to stop. Only the evil doctor was worthy of Master, who was so powerful. Those people of Heaven Capital were really short-sighted. Especially His Majesty, who wanted to force Master to comply and marry according to his wishes. It was really ridiculous. If the evil doctor rose, those noble ladies of Heaven Capital wouldn't even be worthy of carrying her shoes. The group of people saluted and left. In the Red Flame mercenary group, Luo Qingtong didn't know that Yi Qianxian had come to find her. She squatted in the bathtub, which was half the height of a person, submerged in the water up to her shoulders. While washing her body, she unconsciously stroked the knuckle on her left ring finger. There, the 9 phoenix ring was originally worn. But at this moment, the ring was taken off by Luo Qingtong, placed in the palm of her hand, and carefully examined it. Luo Qingtong had been injecting spiritual power into the 9 phoenix ring to see if she could contact Yi Qianxian's habits. But every time, it was unsuccessful. However, just now, when she was about to take off her clothes after taking a shower, she accidentally slipped the 9 netherworld phoenix ring off her finger. What was going on? Except for Yi Qianxian, no one else could take off this ring, including Luo Qingtong. Why did he take it down today? Luo Qingtong's expression was somewhat grave. She carefully examined the 9 nether phoenix ring and didn't find anything wrong with it. If it weren't for this accident, she probably wouldn't have known that the 9 nether phoenix ring could be taken off. What was going on? Could something have happened to Yi Qianxian's Shifang dragon ring? Luo Qingtong was thinking when she suddenly heard someone knocking on the door. Little 7. Yu Xian's voice came from outside. Let me get you some hot water. Hearing Yu Xian's voice, Luo Qingtong instantly had a headache. Not because of anything else, but because this person had been pestering her ever since she saved him. Especially when he just woke up and saw the people of the Red Flame mercenary group. She didn't know if it was the life with that Sects young master that stimulated him, but when he saw Hu Zhan and a group of tall and strong mercenaries, he was scared and desperately hid beside her. Hu Zhan and the others didn't know what was going on, but Luo Qingtong was very clear. Seeing Yu Xian hiding behind her with a pale face and a pair of cold and clear eyes full of fear, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched slightly, but she couldn't refuse him. Chapter 2433. What made Luo Qingtong's head hurt even more was that she didn't know what kind of enslavement education he received from that Sect's young master. He wholeheartedly believed that if he wanted to repay Luo Qingtong for saving his life, he had to serve her well. And this service, of course, wasn't the kind of service one would think of, but the simple kind of service. But Luo Qingtong didn't need it. She had a lot of secrets, and she didn't want others to find out that she was a girl, let alone let Yu Xian serve her by her side. Therefore, she directly refused. But Yu Xian refused to give up and silently worked for Luo Qingtong, and the people of the Red Flame mercenary group were happy to see it. After all, Luo Qingtong was the youngest guy in the Red Flame mercenary group, so they were naturally willing to pamper her. There was nothing bad about having someone take care of her life. For this reason, they even took the initiative to hand over some of Luo Qingtong's matters to Yu Xian. They were simply a group of cheating pig teammates. Hu Zhan also teased Luo Qingtong. Yu Xian probably had an obvious nestling mentality towards her. After all, Luo Qingtong saved him, so he naturally wanted to do his best to repay her. What kind of nestling mentality was this? Your nestling is so big. Luo Qingtong's heart was so stifled that she wished she could beat Hu Zhan and the other guys who made trouble for her to death. God knows how hard it was for her to refuse recently. If she hadn't eaten the small illusion pill, her identity as a girl might have already been exposed. No need. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched slightly as she said to the door, "I've already washed up." As she spoke, she quickly got up from the bathtub and put away the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring in her hand. Then, she dried her body a few times, put on a set of clean clothes, and opened the door. Oh, under the moonlight outside, Yu Xian's figure was slender, his skin was like jade, and he was carrying a bucket of hot water in his hand. This action didn't suit him at all. But when Yu Xian did it, he seemed to have an immortal aura. Even the action of carrying hot water didn't damage his temperament at all. He looked like an immortal descending from the 9 heavens under the moonlight. But now, this banished immortal looked disappointedly at Luo Qingtong, who was already wearing a new set of clothes. However, Yu Xian quickly thought of something. His eyes lit up as he said, "Should I massage your back?" Before Luo Qingtong could refuse, he had already walked into Luo Qingtong's room and led her to the round table in the middle of the room. "My skills are very good. Little 7, you can try." As he spoke, he smiled and placed his hand on Luo Qingtong's shoulder. However, just as he was about to do so, Luo Qingtong grabbed his wrist. "Yu Xian, you don't have to do this. This is no longer the place you used to be. Saving you was just a matter of convenience. You don't have to thank me." Luo Qingtong looked helpless. She didn't like other people touching her body. Moreover, she still had many secrets hidden in her body. "Little 7 doesn't like me, right?" After Yu Xian's hand was grabbed by Luo Qingtong, his body stiffened. Then, he silently lowered his head and said in a low and slightly hoarse voice, "I know little 7 thinks I'm dirty, so I didn't recommend myself. I'm not worthy of you. I just want to repay you. After all, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to escape." He paused and said, "Little 7 found out I was there that day, right? Thank you for not telling those people." Luo Qingtong raised her brows at Yu Xian's words. So this was why he was so determined to marry her. But what the hell did he mean by saying he was dirty? She didn't think that way at all, okay? Luo Qingtong frowned and was about to speak when. Chapter 24:34. Luo Qingtong pressed Yu Xian's shoulder and pressed him down on the table. "Show." She raised her index finger and put it on Yu Xian's lips. Then, she suddenly raised her hand and extinguished the candlelight in the room. In the darkness, Yu Mingqian's eyes were cold. When Luo Qingtong made her move, he thought that he had exposed some flaw and she had seen through him. He almost made his move. "What's going on?" He narrowed his eyes slightly. Using Luo Qingtong's action of pressing him down on the round table, he approached her silently. Almost half of his body was leaning against Lin Mingya. After getting along with her for a few days, Yu Mingqian found that Luo Qingtong was extraordinarily vigilant. Not only him, but even the people of the Red Flame mercenary group found it difficult to get close to her. The young man looked easygoing and easy to talk to, but in fact, he had wrapped his heart up and did not allow others to get close to him easily. Yu Mingqian was thinking about how to get close to her. If he guessed correctly, Luo Qingtong had stayed in Mercenary City for a long time. It was very likely that she would leave this place in a few days. By then, all his efforts would be in vain. He had racked his brains to get close to her, but it would be of no use. Thinking of this, Yu Mingqian's eyes turned cold. He was good at disguising himself. After so many years, Luo Qingtong was the first person who made him feel helpless. Yu Mingqian confirmed that there was no problem with his current identity and persona. If it were someone else, it would be easy for them to sympathize with him and take him under their wings to protect him. The people of the Red Flame mercenary group kept providing him with ways to get close to Luo Qingtong. However, Luo Qingtong did not pay much attention to him. Her attitude towards him was no different from that of the other people in Mercenary City. This made Yu Mingqian feel very troubled. When he got close, Luo Qingtong was also very uncomfortable. She frowned slightly and looked at the handsome face in front of her. Yu Mingqian's voice seemed to be close to her ear. His hot breath blew on her ears. Luo Qingtong knew that Yu Mingqian was probably afraid that others would hear him, so he deliberately lowered his voice and whispered into her ear. However, she still almost threw Yu Mingqian away. For Luo Qingtong, Yu Mingqian's proximity to her was enough to trigger her body's automatic counterattack. Nothing. Luo Qingtong furrowed her brows and put some distance between her and Yu Mingqian. Stay here and don't move. I'll be back soon. There was someone outside. Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes flickered slightly as she looked at the figure outside the room. The other party's strength was extremely high. They had infiltrated her courtyard without alerting anyone. Furthermore, none of the array formations that she had set up around the room had given off any warning. Yi Qianming's thin lips were tightly pursed. His face was hidden under the black mask, making it impossible for others to see his expression. Only his slightly exposed smooth chin was taut, showing that his mood was not calm at all. Luo Qingtong kept staring at his face as she spoke. The blood in her eyes spun quickly, trying to see his face under the mask. However, in order to avoid the people of Tiandu, Yi Qianming and Bei Qing around him all wore masks that could block others' detection. Chapter 24:36. Although this kind of mask was precious in the star field, it wasn't something that didn't exist. The black cloak and hood that Yu Mingqian had worn also had this effect. It was just that this was an inscription tool unique to the Inscription Association. It was different from the mask that Yi Qianxian wore. As Luo Qingtong searched Yi Qianxian's face without any results, Yi Qianxian's figure also moved. He wanted to personally investigate whether or not Luo Qingtong was telling the truth. Shua! Yi Qianxian's figure shot up. Luo Qingtong had been paying attention to his movements the entire time. As his figure shot up, she was very clear that he didn't believe her words and was prepared to personally investigate. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned. She simply wasn't afraid of being investigated. After eating the minor phantom pill, her Adam's apple was protruding and her chest was flat. As long as the other party didn't touch her, it didn't matter how he investigated. Why not take advantage of the situation and directly dispel the other party's doubts? Otherwise, if the other party kept suspecting her, she would be exposed sooner or later. Luo Qingtong didn't want to bring trouble back to the True Spill continent. A 9-star territory and a 6-star territory were simply not on the same level. Moreover, during this period of time, she had heard from Heavenly Wind Mercenary City that the Inscription Association was a giant among the many star fields. Its influence was so great that it covered almost the entire outer space. More importantly, the appearance of the Inscription Association had ended the situation where the various Inscription Master sects had their own way of governing, and unified the Inscription Master sects' plans. Now, the Inscription Association had an extremely high status in the star fields. Any sect or family that wanted the help of an Inscription Master had to go to the Inscription Association and establish good relations with them. In such a situation, directly confronting the other party wasn't a good choice. As Luo Qingtong thought this, her eyes turned. She didn't deliberately block Yi Qianqian's move, but instead deliberately collided with his palm wind. She could see that the other party was probing her, so he didn't use much strength in his movements. In such a case, if she retreated, it would be like exposing herself. As Luo Qingtong thought this, she didn't even summon the life and death yin-yang sword. She directly collided with the opponent's palm wind. As she collided, she deliberately shouted, "Aya, help! Someone is killing me! I am Luo Xiaoqi, everyone come and help me!" Knowing that the other party purposely came to test her identity and did not confirm whether she was Xie Qi or Luo Qingtong felt no pressure at all. With her current identity as Luo Xiaoqi, her influence in Mercenary City was extraordinary. Naturally, countless people were willing to come help her. Sure enough, all the lights of the alley was lit of the night of the nights of the night of the ZSS. Then all of the rooms, teat sound. Its little seventh young master's voice. Tease. Of this. Brothers, hurry up and grab your weapons. A bunch of messy noises sounded, followed by the sounds of various figures and weapons being unsheathed. They all gathered towards Luo Qingtong's side. Luo Qingtong had lured this person out of the Red Flame mercenary group just for this moment. Chapter 24:37. The latter originally came to check whether her male identity was real or not, but he didn't expect that she would deliberately bump into him. With a bang, Luo Qingtong's figure was slapped back by Yi Qianqian's palm. At this moment, a figure suddenly rushed out from the side of the alley. Xiao Qi. Yu Xian's figure floated in the dark alley like an immortal. He anxiously appeared beside Luo Qingtong, standing in front of Luo Qingtong and glaring at Yi Qianxian in front of him. Stop. Who are you? Why did you attack Xiao Qi? Yu Mingqian's eyes were deep. He stared at the man in front of him, wondering who he was and why he suddenly attacked Luo Xiaoqi. Did other people know that the young man had the inscription of God? Or could it be that there was an even more unknown secret on his body? Yu Mingqian's eyes were inexplicable. But the expression on his face was firm and anxious. He stood in front of Luo Qingtong, protecting her behind him. Luo Qingtong's chest was hurt by her own collision. It was not that Yi Qianxian was too strong. On the contrary, the man almost didn't use any strength. He just wanted to check her identity. But damn it, Luo Qingtong didn't expect that although her chest was flattened by the small phantom elixir, Luo Qingtong still felt like her two little white rabbits were patted by Yi Qianxian's palm. It hurt. Luo Qingtong hissed softly. She touched her chest and confirmed that it was flat. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. Damn it, she was scared to death. Fortunately, there was no problem with the other party's touch. Otherwise, she would have picked up a piece of tofu and killed herself. If she went up and let others find out that she was a woman, how stupid it would be. After Luo Qingtong felt relieved, she found Yu Xian standing in front of her, trembling and glaring at the man opposite him. Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed. Why was Yu Xian here? Didn't she ask him to stay in the room? But Luo Qingtong didn't have time to think about it. She got up and pushed Yu Xian aside. Then she rubbed her chest and said to Yi Qianxian opposite her, Now you believe that I'm a man, right? Go. No matter what your purpose is, I'm not the one you're looking for. If you don't go now, you won't get away so easily. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she scanned the surrounding alleyways. Over there, a group of mercenaries who had been alarmed by her had already appeared. Yi Qianqian's eyes slightly. He looked at her coldly and didn't say anything. Then he turned and left. He could clearly feel that he had hit a flat area with his palm just now. No matter how a person's figure was disguised, the difference between a man and a woman was very obvious. If Luo Qingtong was a woman disguised as a man, Yi Qianxian should have seen through her by now. However, his chest was flat. Plus, there was an Adam's apple on her throat and the birthmark on her face. Yi Qianxian pursed his lips tightly. He couldn't help but believe that he had found the wrong person. Since she wasn't the person he was looking for, there was no need for him to stay here any longer. After Yi Qianxian left, Luo Qingtong let out a heavy sigh. Chapter 24:38. Finally, she got away with it. The other party was very strong. If he didn't only want to check her identity, she wouldn't have escaped so easily this time. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was very glad that she had made the decision to plan ahead. Otherwise, today's matter would definitely not be settled. And when she exhaled, a group of mercenaries who were alarmed by her rushed over. Little Seven. Little Seven Gongzi. Are you okay? Everyone asked with concern. They were holding weapons in their hands. Some of them didn't even wear shoes. They directly put on a robe and rushed out. Although these mercenaries were more realistic, they still understood the principle of repaying kindness. After there was no conflict of interest with Luo Qingtong, they immediately regarded Luo Qingtong as a member of Mercenary City. And they were willing to do what they could to repay her. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong looked at them and laughed heartily. The other party has been scared away. Thank you. If it weren't for these people, that person wouldn't have left so easily. Luo Qingtong's gratitude was sincere. Everything she had done before had finally paid off. Little Seven Gongzi, you don't have to thank us. We'll wait for you to teach us more practical skills and methods in the future. The group of mercenaries laughed and said. These people were used to the simple and crude method of completing missions with their lives on the line, regardless of wind or rain. Who would have thought that Luo Qingtong could actually formulate such a detailed and effective method according to the characteristics of the mission items? They had experimented several times. Now, they were all using the method taught by Luo Qingtong. Who knew how much damage and casualties were reduced? This was enough for them to be grateful to Luo Qingtong for a lifetime. What was a little help to her? After the group of people confirmed that Luo Qingtong was fine, they sent her and Yu Xian back to the Red Flame mercenary group. When the people of the Red Flame mercenary group arrived, they were immediately alarmed. When they learned that Luo Qingtong was attacked, their expressions changed. Little Seven, are you all right? Did you see that person's face clearly? Gui Feng took a big stride forward and sized up Luo Qingtong. No. Luo Qingtong shook her head. At this moment, Hu Zhan clenched his fists. It must be those people from the Black Iron mercenary group. Those bastards, it's been so long and they're still thinking about Little Seven. Tomorrow, I will bring my men to the Mercenary Association and teach them a lesson. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched when she heard Hu Zhan's words. Why do I feel that the Black Iron mercenary group is so pitiful? They had been wrongly blamed for this. However, Luo Qingtong couldn't reveal her identity. Naturally, she couldn't tell Hu Zhan that she wasn't a member of the Black Iron mercenary group. Forget it, it's just a beating. She would just treat it as the interest of the Black Iron mercenary group when they started causing trouble for her. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she thought of this. However, she also felt a little strange. The man who appeared tonight, she initially thought that he was one of the people from the Black Iron mercenary group. However, the other party's behavior later didn't seem like it. Luo Qingtong frowned. Could it be that other than the Black Iron mercenary group, there were other people secretly searching for her whereabouts? Chapter 2439. But even if she knew that killing him would bring her a lot of trouble, Luo Qingtong didn't regret it. After all, it was very likely that he knew the whereabouts of the divine inscriptions on the 7th floor of the Heavenly Wind Inscription Tower. Compared to the trouble caused by the other party revealing the information, Luo Qingtong would rather kill him and cause some trouble. After all, they weren't on the same level. From the beginning to the end, Luo Qingtong didn't suspect that the person who came to find her might be Yi Qianxian. After all, she didn't expect that Yi Qianxian would appear here and secretly find her. She had changed her identity, changed her gender, and even had a huge birthmark on her face. Before completely confirming her identity, how could Yi Qianxian reveal her identity? The two of them missed each other by a freak combination of factors. While Luo Qingtong was thinking about Yi Qianxian's identity, the man had already returned to his room. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others had been waiting for him. Seeing Yi Qianxian's figure appear, they immediately stood up and looked at him with hopeful eyes. "Master, how was it?" Their faces were full of expectation. Yi Qianxian looked at their eyes and inexplicably felt a little depressed. He was also very expectant that Luo Qingtong was Luo Xiaoqi. However, it's not her. Yi Qianxian's voice was deep. He took off the mask on his face and threw it on the bed. He walked to the window and looked into the distance. "Qingtong, where are you?" "What?" Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others looked at each other. Everyone's eyes were still full of hope, but the light in their eyes slowly dimmed. Luo Xiaoqi was the only person they could find that matched Luo Qingtong's identity, but it wasn't her. Where did the evil doctor go? In the outer realms, powerhouses were as common as clouds. The evil doctor was suddenly brought to the outer realms. They didn't know how she could safely return to the true Spill continent. If anything happened to her, then Master, are you sure you've investigated thoroughly? Bei Qing could not help but ask. He had never doubted Yi Qianxian's words, but when he saw Yi Qianxian's lonely back, he couldn't help but speak up. "Bei Qing." Feng Yu shouted in a low voice. How could Master make a mistake? Yi Qianxian hoped that Luo Xiaoqi was an evil doctor more than they did. If he wasn't completely confident, he definitely wouldn't have said that. Furthermore, Feng Yu couldn't bear to speak. When they saw Luo Qingtong from afar, they had already confirmed that her Adam's apple was real. With their eyesight, it was impossible for them to be mistaken. There was also a birthmark on her face. It was just that Yi Qianren wouldn't give up on this unless she personally investigated it. Therefore, they did not try to persuade him. At the same time, there was a trace of hope in his heart. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong really had the ability to pass off the fake as the real thing and deceive their eyesight. However, it seemed that they hadn't made a mistake before. This sovereign hit her chest. Yi Qianxian's deep voice drifted in from the window. "She is indeed a young man. Let the people of the underground palace investigate other things. In addition, we will leave Mercenary City tomorrow." "Yes." Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others nodded. Looking at Yi Qianxian's lonely back, they did not disturb him and quietly left. Wouldn't that mean that with a flick of a finger, there would be countless people working for them? Not to mention, the Tianfeng Chu clan had many subordinate clans and sects under them. How could they, as mercenaries, work for them? Everyone was in an uproar, but they still followed their curiosity and came to the square of the Mercenary Association. Yi Qianxian and the others were originally preparing to leave Mercenary City today, but the arrival of the people from the Tianfeng Chu clan disrupted their plans. Not only had the people from the Tianfeng Chu clan entered the city, but they had also sealed off the roads at the city gates. It was said that before they finished their announcement, no one in Heavenly Wind Mercenary City was allowed to leave. This decision was abnormally overbearing and unreasonable, causing many people in Mercenary City to complain. Chapter 2441. After all, they still had to leave the city to complete their mission. But the Tianfeng Chu family was powerful. They were far from what the wandering mercenaries in Mercenary City could compare with. With a large number of troops stationed at the city gates, anyone who tried to force their way out would die. The group of mercenaries were angry, but they didn't dare to speak. Although Yi Qianxian and the others could force their way out of Mercenary City, doing so would inevitably cause trouble. If their identities were exposed and they attracted the attention of Sky Capital's people and Sky Capital's emperor, that would be troublesome. As everyone thought this, they suddenly looked at Yi Qianxian. Master. Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked at him inquisitively. Yi Qianxian's face was hidden under the white jade mask, so it was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. Then let's wait and see, he said. He didn't know why, but he didn't want to leave Mercenary City. That woman wasn't here, so he should leave as soon as possible and go somewhere else to look for her. Otherwise, if she was alone in the starry skies, with a secret that others coveted, and no one by her side to help her, what would happen if she encountered danger? Yi Qianxian was worried. Even though he knew that Luo Qingtong wasn't weak. On the contrary, her personality was cunning, deceitful, and unpredictable. In addition to her elusive abilities, it was difficult for anything to happen to her. But just in case, what if? He had found Luo Qingtong's identity in True Spill Continent. After being together with her, he had never lost contact with her again. One could say that he was worried for nothing, or that he was indecisive. As long as it concerned Luo Qingtong, he would never be able to calm down. Unless he stayed as that woman, always looking at her, holding her hand, and knowing that she was well. Otherwise, he would never be able to feel at ease. This was probably what people often called the feeling of love and longing, right? Who would have thought that one day, he would be so worried about a woman, so worried that he couldn't control himself? In Yi Qianxian's limited 20 years of life, he had never thought of this before. But at this moment, even though he was so anxious and couldn't wait to fly to that woman's side, he couldn't help but feel a little reluctant to leave Mercenary City. Could it be that he was still hoping that woman would come to Mercenary City in the next few days? Yi Qianren's heart was vexed. He pursed his lips and didn't say anything else. After saying those words, he immediately turned around and left. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they heard his words, and they hurriedly responded to him. They were also very worried that Yi Qianxian would charge through the city gate regardless of the consequences. After all, Master had been in a bad mood since last night after checking whether Luo Shaoqi of the Red Flame mercenary group was an evil doctor. Previously, he had been looking forward to it, but now, his feelings of loss and entanglement were just as depressing and unbearable. They all understood in their hearts. Fortunately, Master was still able to control himself and knew that it was useless to force his way through. It was just a few days later, and it was better than alarming the people of Heaven Capital. But why did the people of Tianfeng Chu's family come to Mercenary City for no reason? As everyone thought of this, they hurriedly followed Yi Qianren's footsteps and returned to the room. In the mercenary club, a group of high-ranking mercenary groups and the Black Iron mercenary group were looking at an old man sitting in the main seat in front of them. Chapter 2442. The leader of the Black Iron mercenary group was very flattering. He took a step forward and hurriedly said, "All the leaders of the high-ranking mercenary groups and the experts of the human martial arts realm in Mercenary City are all here. What's the matter, please tell us." His face was full of flattery. God knew how excited the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group was when he found out that the Tianfeng Chu family was coming to Mercenary City to ask them to help with something. This was the Tianfeng Chu family. A true giant family in the Tianfeng region. If he could have a relationship with such a family, even if it was just a little bit, he wouldn't have to be a weak mercenary group leader in Mercenary City. Just the name of the Tianfeng Chu family was enough to bring him great benefits. However, it was a pity that this foreign affairs elder sent by the Tianfeng Chu family completely ignored him. Instead, he treated Gui Feng and the others differently. It was really infuriating. The leader of the Black Iron mercenary group was full of depression and hatred towards Gui Feng. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been tormented so miserably by that Luo Shaoqi. Their entire Black Iron mercenary group was almost pulled down by someone else. Not only that, they were almost disbanded. Those people who listened to Luo Qingtong's explanation came back every day to make trouble for him, the leader, and asked him to apologize to Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, they would leave the group. Not only that, those mercenaries who were cheated by him came in groups to make trouble for them. In order to solve the trouble caused by Luo Qingtong's explanation, he almost lost his family fortune, okay? All the resources and rewards that he had plundered over the years were all used up. Not only that, it wasn't enough. It caused him to tighten his belt and desperately look for people to borrow money everywhere, and who knew how much debt he owed. And all of this was because Gui Feng and the others protected Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, with the other party's magical appraisal ability, they would be a money tree. Couldn't they move to anywhere? It was really a wave of the hand, and a large amount of money and resources would be in their hands. Unfortunately, Gui Feng, that self-proclaimed righteous and principled person, had messed it up. Thinking of this, the Black Iron mercenary group's leader felt displeased. If it wasn't for the Tianfeng Chu clan personally calling for all the high-ranking mercenary groups to come, he really didn't want Gui Feng and the others to come. While he was feeling frustrated, Elder Fu from the Heavenly Wind Chu clan swept his gaze across the group of mercenaries in front of him. Other than Gui Feng and Hu Zhan, as well as the leaders of the other high-rank mercenary groups, whom he barely looked up to, the others were all a bunch of trash. Finding such a group of trash to work for the Tianfeng Chu clan was really a disgrace to the Tianfeng Chu clan's reputation. However, things had happened so suddenly that there was nothing he could do. In order to cover up the news and get that thing as soon as possible, they had no choice but to let these mercenaries take action. Thinking of this, Elder Fu frowned and was about to speak. At this moment, his gaze suddenly swept to Luo Qingtong and he said coldly, "Why is such a lowly trash here?" Leader of the Black Iron mercenary group, what do you think the mission of the Tianfeng Chu clan is? He clearly said that only the leaders of the high-rank mercenary groups could come in and listen to him talk about the mission. Chapter 2443. Gui Feng's and the others' faces instantly changed when they heard Elder Fu's words. Especially Hu Zhan. He was completely enraged. "You, old bastard!" Before he could finish speaking, he was stopped by Gui Feng. "Elder Fu." He looked at Elder Fu with a neither servile nor overbearing expression. "Little Seven is a member of our Red Flame mercenary group. At the same time, she's also a VIP of all the mercenary groups in Mercenary City. Her appearance here is a request from all of us mercenary groups. If you don't think it's appropriate for her to appear here, then there's no need for us to participate in the Tianfeng Chu family's mission. Don't you think so?" As he spoke, his gaze swept across the crowd in Tianfeng Mercenary City. These people had previously said that they wanted Luo Qingtong to come here to participate in the Tianfeng Chu family's meeting. If not for this, why would Luo Qingtong stand here and be humiliated? If they didn't say anything today, Gui Feng would immediately leave with Luo Qingtong. As for the Tianfeng Chu family's mission, the Red Flame mercenary group wouldn't participate in it. Could it be that the heavenly Wind Chu clan dared to force a trade? Gui Feng's thoughts were mature. Naturally, he wouldn't watch Luo Qingtong be humiliated. However, the Red Flame mercenary group couldn't easily go against the Tianfeng Chu family's reputation. If Hu Zhan had said those words just now, it would have vented his anger, but the consequences would be unimaginable. It would have even caused more trouble for Luo Qingtong. However, it would be different if all the mercenary groups spoke together. The law couldn't punish the majority. Moreover, the Tianfeng Chu family still needed these mercenary groups to work for them. They wouldn't let all the mercenary groups withdraw. Gui Feng's words were to force these mercenary groups to follow suit and stand on Luo Qingtong's side. This would prevent the Tianfeng Chu family from venting their anger on Luo Qingtong. It could be said that Gui Feng's idea was extremely good. When the mercenaries heard his words, they couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Indeed, they were the ones who called Luo Qingtong over. They wanted Luo Qingtong to listen to the content of the mission so that she could give them more ideas. Furthermore, the Tianfeng Chu family was actually willing to hand over the mission to their mercenary group. Obviously, this mission was not ordinary. Luo Qingtong's meticulous observation and meticulous planning in Mercenary City had already been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Naturally, everyone wanted her to be their supervisor. However, to everyone's surprise, Elder Fu was so angry at Luo Qingtong's appearance. The group of people wanted to stand up for Luo Qingtong, but they were afraid of offending the Tianfeng Chu family and getting into trouble. But at this time, Gui Feng purposely forced them, resolving their worries instead. If they spoke together, the Tianfeng Chu family couldn't possibly wipe them all out, right? With this thought in mind, the group of people immediately said, "Elder Fu, Little Seven's ability is indeed extraordinary. We specially invited her here." "Yes, Elder Fu, Little Seven is our Mercenary City's god of fortune. If you don't let her participate here, we won't dare to accept your mission." Elder Fu's face darkened when he heard their words. God of fortune. Extraordinary ability. Chapter 2444. The other party was merely a youth with an ugly appearance and low strength. Why was it that when they were talking about him, it was as if he was a god? If that was the case, was he blind to not recognize Mount Tai when he spoke against the other party? Elder Fu's expression darkened, and he was furious. The members of the Heavenly Wind Chu clan who were standing beside him were also enraged. These people from Mercenary City were just mud that couldn't support a wall. She dared to talk back to Elder Fu for a weak and uncouth young man. The atmosphere between the mercenaries and the people from the Tianfeng Chu clan was tense. At this moment, the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. "Hey, everyone, why do you have to do this? Elder Fu just doesn't know Luo Xiaoqi's identity. Besides, it's wrong for a weak person like her to be here. You didn't explain it in advance, so of course Elder Fu is angry. Don't you agree, Elder Fu?" As he spoke, he looked at Elder Fu with a flattering smile. Elder Fu didn't think highly of him. But now, the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group was belittling Luo Qingtong, which meant that he agreed with Elder Fu that Luo Qingtong was a weak piece of trash. This made him feel very comfortable, and he looked at the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group in a different light. "That's right. An ugly and weak person. If it weren't for you guys interceding for her, I would have beaten her out of here. You better be telling the truth. Otherwise." Elder Fu snorted and narrowed his eyes. His aura was suddenly released, and it was very terrifying. Immediately, the mercenaries were forced to take a few steps back. Everyone's expression changed, and they all said that they didn't dare. As for Gui Feng and Hu Zhan, they rushed to Luo Qingtong's side instantly when Elder Fu's aura exploded. They released their auras and enveloped the young man in front of them. They snorted coldly and retreated with a group of people. Their expressions were extremely ugly. Damn, this old bastard. Hu Zhan cursed in his heart. So what if you have strength? Damn it, if they hadn't acted fast enough, Luo Qingtong might have been hurt. He clearly knew that Luo Shaoqi didn't have any strength, yet he still deliberately released his aura to suppress her. Hu Zhan didn't believe that he didn't do it on purpose. Damn it. If not for Gui Feng holding him back, he would have already rushed out. Big brother, let's not participate in this troublesome mission. F***CK, these Tianfeng Chu people are willing to work for us. It's definitely not a good thing. Let's just reject it. At least little Seven won't be humiliated like this. Hu Zhan angrily whispered into Gui Feng's ear. Before Elder Fu could say anything, Elder Fu looked over at them. Humph. You can choose not to participate. But this kid has to stay. As he spoke, he pointed at Luo Qingtong. Seeing this, Hu Zhan was enraged. Why? This old bastard is going to fight Luo Shaoqi, right? How shameless. Hu Zhan was about to explode from anger. Humph, based on what you said just now. Elder Fu sneered. Didn't you say that she's a goddess of fortune? What ability does she have? Why did you have to bring her here? Chapter 24:45. Elder Fu couldn't take it lying down. All the mercenaries spoke up for Luo Qingtong. As a member of the Tianfeng Chu family, no one dared to disrespect him like this. Although he could swallow his anger in order to let these mercenaries take the mission, he didn't want to let go of Luo Qingtong, the culprit. He had thought highly of Gui Feng and Hu Zhan. But they actually went against him for Luo Shaoqi. Elder Fu didn't like them at all. They didn't want to take the mission, but Luo Shaoqi had to stay. And the mercenaries didn't want Luo Qingtong to leave either. What a joke. They even offended the Tianfeng Chu family for Luo Shaoqi. Instead, they let the Black Iron mercenary group take the lead. If Luo Qingtong left with Gui Feng and Hu Zhan, what would they do? Without Luo Qingtong as the backbone of the team, they were terrified. No, Hu Zhan, don't be so impulsive. That's right. Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for us. If Shaoqi leaves, what should we do? You Red Flame mercenary group can't be so disloyal. They all talked at once, which made Hu Zhan choke with anger. Couldn't these idiots see that Elder Fu was trying to get rid of Luo Shaoqi? Just as he was about to open his mouth in anger, Gui Feng pressed down on his shoulder and suppressed him. Don't be impulsive. If we go against the Tianfeng Chu family, it won't be good for Luo Shaoqi and us. He glanced at Elder Fu and the members of the Tianfeng Chu family behind him and said. Gui Feng knew it very well. If they didn't take the mission, it wouldn't do them any good. Not to mention that Elder Fu didn't allow Luo Qingtong to leave. Even if he did, Gui Feng wouldn't quit the mission. Because if they quit the mission, they and Luo Qingtong would be even less safe. On the contrary, they were together with the people from Mercenary City, advancing and retreating together. Only then would those people from the Tianfeng Chu clan not dare to make a move secretly. When Hu Zhan first spoke, Gui Feng wasn't prepared to agree. Gui Feng felt helpless in his heart. This fellow's brain was lacking a few tendons. His thinking was too simple. Luo Qingtong also wanted to hold Tiger Zhan down. What Gui Feng could think of, she could naturally think of as well. However, since Gui Feng had already made his move, she did not make another move. She merely smiled and said, Big brother Hu Zhan was just joking. It's impossible for us, the Red Flame mercenary group, to withdraw from the mission. After all, it's our honor to be able to help the Tianfeng Chu family. Don't you agree, Elder Fu? She looked at him with a smile. She remembered everything that Elder Fu said to her just now. When the mission started, there would be plenty of opportunities for revenge. Why should she be in a hurry? She was looking forward to finding out what the mission was that could make the people from the Tianfeng Chu family come to Mercenary City to work for them. It must be very complicated. If anything unexpected happened during this mission, then she could not be blamed. Wasn't that the case? Luo Qingtong raised her hand and gently caressed her wrist. The smile on her face became even more innocent, as if she didn't take Elder Fu's words to heart. Humph! Seeing her expression, Elder Fu snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. Gui Fang and the others weren't weak. In the current situation, one more helping hand meant one more chance. He didn't need to waste Gui Fang and the others' help for an ugly, vulgar, and weak young man. Otherwise, why would he tolerate Hu Zhan's impudence? He would have kicked him out long ago. Since that's the case, let's talk about the mission. As he spoke, he slowly opened his mouth and explained the mission one by one. Following his voice, the crowd's expressions immediately changed. Chapter 2446. Tian Luo Grass. Luo Qingtong's eyes sparkled. She fixed her gaze on Elder Fu. The people around her were also breathing heavily, as if they were unable to control themselves. It wasn't that the mercenaries lacked self-control, but the news that Elder Fu told them was too shocking. It was no wonder that after they had summoned the people of Mercenary City, they had only sent the experts and managers of the high-ranked mercenary groups. It wasn't that they were arrogant, but that there was more to this mission. And it was extremely shocking. That's right, Tian Luo Grass. Elder Fu's face was filled with pride and arrogance when he saw the shocked expressions on the mercenaries' faces. Humph, these vulgar people from Mercenary City. If it weren't for this special situation, why would the Tianfeng Chu clan need to come to Mercenary City to find people? Elder Fu's eyes darkened. I don't think I need to explain more about this Tian Luo Grass. This is a peerless immortal herb that can only be formed after being nurtured by Kane Qi and the Great Tao. It usually only forms when the heart of a high-ranking continent transforms. It's extremely rare for the heart of a high-ranking continent to transform. It usually only transforms when a high-ranking continent is on the verge of destruction. Once the heart of a continent transforms successfully, the high-ranking continent will be able to continue its life. If it doesn't, the high-ranking continent will be completely destroyed. This Tian Luo grass is formed when the heart of a continent transforms. There are countless hearts of continents in the world that transforms when the time comes, but only a few can form a peerless immortal herb like the Tian Luo grass. This Tian Luo grass can not only help a person obtain an immortal spiritual body, but it can also transform a person overnight. Even an idiot, a person as stupid as a pig, after touching this heaven-sifting grass, would immediately transform into a mortal body and achieve an immortal spirit body. At the same time, their strength will increase by leaps and bounds, and they will directly enter the venerable realm. If someone above the venerable realm obtains it, their strength will also increase by a whole realm. At the same time, whether it's advancing to the human martial realm or the human martial realm, there won't be any obstacles. This peerless immortal herb is the reason why we're here to issue this mission. The mercenaries swallowed their saliva when they heard Elder Fu's words. The ability to break through a whole realm aside, the immortal spiritual body alone was enough to drive them crazy. The immortal spiritual body. What was the goal of all these cultivators to go against the heavens? It wasn't for supreme power, but for the great Tao of heaven and earth. The immortal spiritual Qi was a threshold to the great Tao of heaven and earth. It was the martial artists when they cultivated to the venerable realm. This was because the introduction of the immortal Qi was a huge test for them. From the body to the soul, everything had to undergo a metamorphosis. Not only that, it was not easy for them to absorb and refine the immortal Qi. Every wisp of immortal energy had to go through layers of refinement and extraction before they could obtain a tiny bit of energy to strengthen and fill their meridians. Under such circumstances, they did not know how long they would have to cultivate for before they could absorb enough energy for their own advancement. Chapter 2447. The law of heaven and earth contained in it was even more complicated and profound. It could be said that every step was arduous and difficult. Every expert who could cultivate to the venerable realm and above had endured for an unknown amount of time. Of course, there were those who were extremely talented and took much less time to cultivate than others, but they still managed to reach their current level. However, the immortal spiritual body was different. If one attained the immortal spiritual body, they would naturally be able to absorb immortal spiritual chi. This powerful aura, which was even more powerful than spiritual chi, was as simple as eating and drinking in front of the immortal spiritual body. One could easily refine the power and law of heaven and earth from the immortal spiritual chi. Therefore, no one would not be tempted by the news of the Tian Luo grass. However, the group of mercenaries were not fools. Why would the Tian Feng Chu clan leak the news of such an immortal herb? Why would they let them complete the mission? Were they not afraid that they would take it for themselves? After all, no one could resist the temptation of the Tian Luo grass. The group of mercenaries was very confused. The leader of a high-ranking mercenary group directly asked the question. If you can get the Tian Luo grass, then it's your ability. But is it so easy to get such a peerless immortal herb? Elder Fu's face was full of disdain when he heard the leader's question. If it was so easy to get the Tian Luo grass, why would he come to these mercenaries? Did he think that the Tian Feng Chu clan had no one else? If the strength of these itinerant cultivators and mercenaries were to be displayed, the disciples of the Tian Feng Chu clan's branch families would be able to kill them in an instant with the help of their cultivation methods and weapons, even if their cultivation levels were much lower than theirs. If it weren't for the special circumstances, why would they come to these trash? These mercenaries might not think too highly of themselves. Elder Fu's face was full of disdain. His words also made the mercenaries very embarrassed. Gui Feng and Hu Zhan were the same. These mercenaries were all self-taught geniuses. They relied on their courage, stumbling, and relying on their talent and perseverance to forcefully kill their way out of this cold-blooded and merciless heavenly Tao. Their strength was indeed inferior to those disciples who came from large sects and factions. Because they didn't have a systematic learning system, they didn't have powerful cultivation techniques, and they didn't have any elders who could teach them and point out their cultivation mistakes. Everything they relied on was their own lives and their courage to not be afraid of death. What right did Elder Fu have to look down on them? If they had been born in a big family, or even an ordinary family or sect, they wouldn't have been afraid of Elder Fu at all. In terms of willpower and talent, even the disciples of the 10 great clans might not be able to compete with them. After all, for the mercenaries who had risen from humble beginnings to their current strength, which one of them had talent and strength that was inferior to the disciples of the big families? They just didn't have the resources and background of the disciples of the big clans. In this world, what mattered was not talent and strength, but resources. Everyone was sad. They didn't want to accept Elder Fu's disdain, but they couldn't refute him. They were angry but didn't dare to say anything. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.